We now come to verse 31. Now, in verse 31 to 34 is a very important passage. It says, "Behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah." Before we tackle this passage, I would like us to review for ourselves the first covenant and what that entails so that we can understand and appreciate what the new covenant can be. We begin our review in the book of Exodus, and we are at Exodus chapter 19. In Exodus chapter 19, I just want to draw your attention that they have come all the way from the Red Sea that they have crossed after leaving Egypt. And by the third month, they have gone out of Egypt and have come to the wilderness of Sinai. They have departed from Rephidim into the wilderness of Sinai and camped in that wilderness before the mountain. And we call this mountain Mount Sinai or Mount Sinai in American English. And I want to draw your attention to the conversation that Moses had with God when Moses went up to God in the mountain, and God called him from the mountain. And so he went up the mountain. So understand this. At Mount Sinai, Moses went up the mountain. And so I want us to now look at these words. "Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob," that is the whole 12 tribes, "and tell the children of Israel," which is another name for Jacob. And so here we have an A and a B. Now the description is this: "You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself," which means this, that God is on the mountain and called them all to come and leave Egypt to where God is. That is what it means, brought you to myself. That God was waiting for them here. Now, this is what I want to show you in verse 5. "Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special people, a special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel." And so there is a covenant that God will make with them, and a covenant, Berith. Berith is actually an agreement that God makes with Israel, all the people. And it states what is going to happen if Israel does certain things, and then God will make it happen. And so we are seeing the covenant. If they obey my voice, the covenant says that they will be a special treasure to me above all people, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. This is the covenant that God made with Israel at Mount Sinai. Now, understand that that's the background, that Israel is structured as a holy nation, a special nation, a nation that has priests that will lead them to serve God. And in God's eyes, they will be valuable in his eyes, more valuable than all the people in the world. Now let us go to chapter 24. In Exodus chapter 24, Moses came to tell the people all the words of God. And all the people answered with one voice to say this: all the words which Jehovah has said, we will do. And that is the signing of the covenant. And so Moses wrote all the words down, and that would be whatever is in chapters 20 to 23, and all the conditions and all the instructions that will be expanded over time. And so he rose early in the morning, built an altar at the foot of Mount Sinai, constructed 12 pillars for the representing 12 tribes of Israel, and then offered burnt offerings and peace offerings of oxen to the Lord. And Moses took half the blood, put it in basins, half the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And this is important. He took the book of the covenant, read it in the hearing of the people, and the people repeated and said, all the Lord has said we will do, and we will be obedient. And that sealed Israel into a covenant relationship with God, that they are a special treasure of God. They are a kingdom of priests, and they are a holy nation. And so this is the blood of the covenant which the Lord has made with you according to all these words. Now, obviously, there's a lot more said, but we don't have it recorded. I just want us to bear in mind, this is the covenant that we are going to deal with in Jeremiah chapter 31. We come back to Jeremiah chapter 31, and in verse 31, it reads this way. It says, behold, the days are coming. Again, please understand, this is a period that will come in the future. And this is declares, it is a declaration. It's a decree. It's something that God will edict that he will do. When I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Now, please understand a couple of concepts here. It's a new covenant. This word new, as in verse 31, we've seen this word before. This is Hadash. Hadash actually means something renewed by repair. Something that was there that is made fresh or refresh. These are all good words. So this is a new covenant or a renewed covenant. And it is, as God has done it, with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, because the old covenant, if we want to call it old covenant, or the original covenant, was made with the house of Jacob. That would be all the 12 tribes. And then after Solomon, they broke into the northern kingdom, the house of Israel, and the southern kingdom, the house of Judah. But it's still the same two parties, God and them. And God continues to say this, not according to the covenant that I had made with the fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt. Now, the idea here is not according to. It means not like. Now, not like doesn't mean that the terms and conditions are different. Not like means it's not going to be contained in the same mode. So let's read. My covenant which they broke. This word break is to treat with disrespect. Think of it as stepping on the covenant, that you treat it as of no value. And it says here, although I was a husband to them. Now, this word husband should better be read as master or Lord. I was their Lord. I was their master. I was their Baal. Husband, not so appropriate. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days. Now, understand the way that Hebrew works. It is not just with the house of Israel, it's just that it doesn't need to repeat the house of Judah. The house of Israel is the bigger of the two houses, and it represents both houses. Like when we say the Tanakh, for example, the Tanakh, that it comprises of the Torah and the Nevi'im and the Ketuvim. You don't keep repeating the three. And so oftentimes using the word Torah, depending on the context, it would encompass all the three groupings, the whole Tanakh. And so the house of Israel, after those days, will be all 12 tribes, both houses, declares God. Now, if you take a look at this, it says, I will put, in verse 33, it says, I will give my law. I will give my Torah, and the covenant comprises of the Torah in their minds. Now, this is not a good word to use, I would say. It would be inside them. I think that would be a better way to look at it. Inside them. And then it continues to say, and will write it on their hearts, and I would be their God, and they shall be my people, which is a repeat of chapter 30. No more shall every man teach his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord, for they all will know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, says God. For I will forgive their iniquity, and the sin I will remember no more. So by way of closing up this segment, think of it this way. My covenant at the time where they received at Mount Sinai was written on tablets of stone. The new covenant will be inside and in their hearts. And by hearts, it means their wills, their choices. So that when they now look at everything they do, they are of full clarity as to who God is and the value that God has to them in the covenant, in everything they do, according to what the covenant requires of them. And in that sense, the same Torah, the same covenant is no longer on the tablets of stone, which is breakable, and they broke, but it will be inside the hearts, which is always before their minds, and they will be very careful. And remember what I said, this is the great reset. That they are no longer to teach each other, because they will all know somehow God is going to put inside them, very much like the conscience, that they always have the covenant and the Torah before their minds. And so when they act on it, they can only make little mistakes, but they will no longer rebel against God. And because of that, God can easily forgive their iniquity and will remember their sins no more. And remember, this is days are coming, not yet. So original covenant and the new covenant or the refreshed covenant is on the mold, right? The mold on tablets of stone versus inside the hearts that everyone would know. Do not need to teach, because the knowledge of God will be like the waters that covers the sea. That would be the end days.